Good morning. This is Augie Beltran. I'm the chair for the Ledge Committee meeting of February 4th, 2021. We're going to go ahead and call to order. We're going to have roll call and establish a quorum. Will the February 4th, 2021 Ledge Committee meeting of the Contractors State License Board come to order? I'm Augie Beltran, committee chair. I want to thank the board members for attending today's video teleconference legislative committee meeting. Board members, to ensure we don't have any bandwidth issues, please keep your video cameras off when you're not speaking. I'd ask you to also keep everything on mute. When you'd like to comment at any time throughout the meeting, please turn on your camera or select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application. I will call on board members to speak. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute and turn off your camera. You also need to click on the raise your hand icon to lower your hand. Only board members who are members of the Ledge Committee may comment or participate in the meeting. Members of the public, if you joined us on WebEx and would like to make a comment at the appropriate time, either raise your hand or use chat feature to send us a note that you'd like to offer a public comment. If you joined us by phone and would like to make a public comment during public comment opportunities, please press *3 to raise your hand. We will use the same system throughout the meeting for public comment throughout each agenda item. Shelley Jones is our host and moderator today. She will be assisting us by monitoring the public teleconference line. Thank you, Shelley. Let's go ahead and check for a quorum. Feliz, please call roll.
Augie Beltran.
Aye.
Frank Altamira.
Here.
Ronnie Cobles.
Here.
Miguel Galarza.
Here.
Susan Grandella.
Here.
Wayne.
Here.
Mayor Tykert has an excused absence. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our first item is public comment session for items not on the agenda and future agenda item requests. This item is provided for public comment pertaining to items on the agenda, as well as items not on the agenda. However, the committee cannot discuss or take any actions on items not listed on the agenda. The CSLB welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it is CSLB's intent to ask for public comment prior to the committee taking action on any agenda item. But if for some reason we forget to ask for public comment on the agenda item, a member of the public desiring to comment on the item should raise their hand and they will be recognized. Also, to allow this committee sufficient time to conduct its scheduled business, we will be limiting public comment to 3 minutes per individual. Are there any comments from this committee? Shelley?
At this time, I am not seeing any requests for comment, either in the chat, the Q&A, nor do I see any hand raises at this time.
Okay, Diana Love, I see your hand is up.
No, I'm sorry. Let me take it down.
Thank you. All righty. Item C, update on previously approved legislative proposals. We're on page 75 of your packet. In its introduction to the legislative proposals the CSLB is sponsoring this year. These proposals were approved by the board at various public meetings between 2019 and 2020. Les Chief Chemensky will provide an update of the status on these bills. What do you got, Chief?
Good morning, and thank you, Chair. Yeah, there's 3 previously approved measures by the board that are on page 75. The plan actually is to have these go into 2 bills as opposed to 3. The first 2 measures on page 75, the increase of civil penalties and the additional violations in a letter of admonishment. It made sense to actually do those in 1 bill because they're near the same section of law and they deal with kind of a similar issue. On the one side, increasing civil penalty fees to be consistent with modern day expenses. Those were last raised in the 90s and early 2000s. But on the other side, the letter of admonishment, which is an opportunity to provide educational and information tools to contractors as opposed to finding them, it made sense to put those proposals together. And I have the excellent news that as of last night, we did get a commitment from Assemblymember Grayson, a former contractor, who will be introducing this measure for us this year. So that's great news. And then the statutory fee increase, that one is obviously the most important. The Department of Consumer Affairs ledge is taking the lead on that one because there are other boards that also need a fee increase at this time. So there's discussions going on as to what the vehicle will be, the legislative vehicle will be for that fee bill, whether it will be a budget trailer bill or a policy bill. And we will just keep you updated on what that vehicle will be when we learn, but we are pretty confident that that measure will be introduced as well, given the significance of it both for CSLB and the other agencies. Thanks.
Wonderful. No action is required by the committee. Are there any comments from the committee?
Yes,
No?
I have a question. It's Susan Granzella.
Go ahead, Susan.
On C, when we were discussing this and approving it prior to, it's good to hear that it will be part of a DCA effort to get this in, but we had talked about an end date or an optimum date in order to have this completed. And will the DCA be included if we are included with DCA, does that impact our end date for this effort?
Excellent question, Susan. It does not, because whether we pick the budget trailer vehicle or the policy bill vehicle, we're still talking about the same legislative session. So we're still going to get this measure introduced this session is the ultimate goal.
Well, that's good news, because that was a big one. And then the first two, congratulations for getting that in and finding out about it last night. It's very good. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up on the board side. Shelley, do we have anything from the public?
Seeing nothing in the chat. No requests through the Q&A, and quick check of no hands in the public.
Great. Okay, so now we move on to item D, review, discussion, and possible action on 2021-2022 pending legislation. A is AB 2046 Quirk 2021 Contractors Disciplinary Actions. Now we're on page 79 of the packet. This bill would make it a cause of licensed discipline for a contractor to violate local or state law related to illegal dumping of construction materials. The board voted to be the sponsor of this measure at its December 2020 board meeting, and the measure now has been introduced as a bill at the state ledge, AB 246. As a result, staff recommends that the ledge committee recommend to the full board that we adopt a support position on AB 246. Let's go ahead and take a motion in a second, and then we can discuss.
This is Cobos. I'll make the motion.
This is Susan, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Committee members, looking for hands. I don't see any hands. Any committee members wish to say anything?
Yes. The language here, as it is explained, for it says the existing law. What we are actually doing is that we are changing the Business and Professions Code 7110 to include specific language because, and I had forgotten what we did in the last round when we were talking about this, because that requirement was not specifically named, we were having difficulty in enforcing those the violations.
Chief?
Yes, so you're correct. The statute that is going to be amended by this measure, it's what we call our catch-all. It's a section of law that lists other violations outside of the contractor's law that CSLB can take action against a contractor for violating. But it's not in our practice act, so we usually rely on other jurisdictions to help us establish the violation. This would be adding to that section. Violations of illegal dumping laws, state or local. It would give us the bootstrap the registrar's authority to take action for those violations.
That's correct. I remember now. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Thank you. Any other board members? Seeing none. Shelley, what do we have from the public?
From the public, I am not seeing any hand raises. Nothing in the chat. And no Q&A questions so far.
Wonderful. Felice, please call roll.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Frank Altamira,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Here.
Susan Granzella,
Here.
Jim Wayne.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Now we're still on item D, but we're on alphabet letter B. SB 216 Dodd, Contractors, Workers' Compensation Insurance, Mandatory Coverage. Now we're on page 80 of your packets. This bill would preclude CSLB from accepting certificates of exemption from workers' compensation insurance from licensed C8 concrete, C20 HVAC, and D49 tree service contractors in the first year and from all contractors in 3 years. The result is that all contractors would be required to have a certificate of workers' comp insurance on file by 2025. This concept began as a new issue in CSLB's 2019 Sunset Review report to the legislature. CSLB staff and the board's Workers' Compensation Insurance Advisory Committee had multiple meetings with industry and insurance representatives to identify the license classes subject to the requirement in the first year. Staff then prepared and presented a research study and draft legislative proposal for the board's review that identified 3 classifications for mandatory insurance in the first year and requiring it for all classifications by 2025. The board approved the proposal at its September 2020 board meeting and authorized staff to seek legislative authorship. An author was obtained and SB 216 was introduced by Senator Dodd. As a result, staff recommends that Ledge Committee recommend to the full board that it adopt a support position on SB 216. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion in a second and then we can comment.
Wayne, motion.
Granzella, second.
Got it? Do we have any comments from the board? I don't see any hands. Shelley, do we have anything from the public?
We do have a request from Ernesto Macias. Macias, thank you. And Ernesto, your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Ernesto Macias with West Coast Arborists, Vice President for Risk Management and Labor Relations. We're in full support of this item and would love for the CSLB to approve and pass this. It would not only tighten up the fraudulent contractors that are out there not providing workers' comp for their employees, and in turn infecting the employees and their families when those employees get hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernesto. Shelley, any other public comments?
Seeing no additional comments at this time.
All right, bringing it back. Felice, roll call, please.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Frank Altamira,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Jim Wayne.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Now we're on letter E. Update discussion on the 2019-21 Legislative Strategic Plan. Now, we're on page 83 of our packets. Hit it, Chief.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, on page 83, we just thought we would share the good news that we're pretty near wrapping up some of these items. So if we take a look at 3.2, we just finished discussing that legislation to require workers' compensation for additional classifications. This bill was introduced, so we're well on the way to completing that item. Item 3.4, the sufficiency of the qualifier bond. This was included in the bond study that was submitted to the legislature in December of last year, and we did ask the legislature for review of that significant issue, which is whether qualifiers are executing their responsibility over the license and if that bond is sufficient. And then item 3.8, the feasibility of a graduated fee increase for different contractor entities. That language is actually in our proposed fee bill legislative language. We discussed a fee bill, the last item. So that will, once that is introduced, we'll be getting towards wrapping up this strategic plan item. With that update, we probably will have some items to strike through next time we meet, and we are working feverishly on the other items that are in this strategic plan. But as I sit here now, if Susan's still on the line, your question just has been rattling in my head, and I think I have a better answer for you than I gave you. You were asking about, this is regarding 3.8, the feasibility of a graduated fee increase and our fee bill. You're asking about when that bill would be effective. So
Right.
if we get into a a budget trailer bill, it's possible we'll be able to ask for July 2021 start date, or if we get into a policy bill, we would begin a January 2022 effective date. That would go on the March renewals, whereas the July would go on renewals this year. But this is very up in the air, and we would still also need the IT division time to develop the technology to make these effective. I believe that window is the most important part. Will be getting this bill through. That's going to be our focus. And then the timeline for implementation, if there's a few months there, I think that would be absorbable. But I just want to, as I thought back, I realized I didn't fully get to what you're asking about. And I think that probably does.
No, that's really helpful. It sounds like it's still flexible enough that it will work. I have one last question. It's kind of I just pulled out some of the old agendas. Right now, when we're talking about the workers' comp, the requirement says in the documentation that only the C39 roofing is required to file workers' comp. And we are expanding that. I thought we had more than one classification.
So, correct. Under existing law right now, there's 44 license classifications. Under existing law, only one of those, the C39 roofer, has to have this certificate of insurance on file. This measure will expand it to 3 more, and then all of them by 2025.
Right, makes it even more important. All right, thank you very much.
You good, Chief? You're on mute, I think.
I'm good. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much. Any other comments from the board? I don't see any hands up. Shelley, do we have any comments from the public?
Scanning the panel, I see no hand raises, I see no chats, and I see no Q&A requests.
Great. This is our last item. It was informational only. Chief, thank you for a great presentation. Shelley, thank you for your moderation. And we stand adjourned until next time. Thank you. Bye.